I'm Pia-Maria Thorén. I'm from Agile People, and this keynote explores how we can lead with both data and empathy, because it's quite a good balance that is needed there. And I made this speech initially for an HR strategy conference that it was held last week in Helsinki in Finland, and usually I talk for HR and the leaders. This is my main audience, so it may be that I'm preaching for the choir a little bit here, because I know that you already agree with me on all these points, probably. I would say, but I thought I'd give it the way I did for the HR audience, and we'll see what you think about it. And I'm going to start to tell you about a story from one of my clients many years ago. This is a well-known global company, car manufacturing company in Gothenburg. You may have heard of them. They had a very strong HR function and was seen as forward-thinking at the time I was working with them. And they wanted to improve employee engagement. So they invested in a yearly engagement survey every year. And they had this company which included benchmarking data and everything from competitors and all sorts of charts and dashboards. So every autumn they would, the whole HR department was consumed with collecting data from all employees worldwide, 23,000 employees at the time worldwide, and distributing the survey and collecting the result. It was a lot of work, needless to say. And when results from the survey finally was there, not much actually happened. Management team, of course, took great pride in the great numbers. It was better than competitors, they thought. Look at our great engagement figures, they said. 95% of employees are happy and engaged. But nothing happened after that. People in this company had expected some kind of action, or at least a discussion, but there was no interest from managers after they had received the score. So this is the story about an HR department who did almost everything right according to the benchmarking data. They monitored the engagement dashboard, but lost the connection with the people. And I've seen many HR departments doing the same thing. They focus too much on processes, IT systems, and the efficiency created by measuring and using data. I've been part of so many talent management system implementations that never created the expected value because people were not involved in the actual implementation. And they weren't listened and cared for when deciding on how to work. So the more you try to fix the numbers, the more trust fade. And your teams, they don't want another measurement. They want action and improvement. They want care. They want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to have real connection. They don't want measurements and data. Another example is when we are focusing on the shareholder value, when we should focus first on the customer value and the employee satisfaction, because the value created between employees and customers will, in the end, as a consequence from that value, there will be shareholder value as well. So you're not in business to make money, you're in business to create value for a customer, internal or external. And for HR, the customer is internal, mainly first. And this is also where we focus more on numbers than on people. And in the end, this comes down to how we view different people, if we view them as X or Y. And I'm sure you know about the X view and the Y view of people already. And you can ask yourself, how do you see yourself and how do you view other people? And the takeaway here is that most people see themselves as Y. They are exhibiting Y behavior, that is, because people are not never X or Y, they are just behaving in different ways. But it's only other people who behave according to X. So then you can ask yourself, is this just a prejudice that we have about other people? And if they would get the right conditions in the organization's system, would they then also be Y person? Because it's really about the system of work and what are we providing to our employees? Do we believe in them? Do we set them up for success by providing an organizational system where they can release their full human potential? Or do we set them up to fail by not giving them the opportunity to do what they do best every day, not removing impediments for performing, and not giving them the resources that they need to succeed? And why is this important? Well, it's important because how we view people affects how we structure our management processes and our governance processes, if we set up people for success or failure. So why do we rely so much on data today? Well, because we have to. We're in the middle of a massive transformation, as you know, in the world. AI is taking over. There is automation, there is machine learning, predictive analytics, and everything is becoming smarter and faster and more measurable all the time. And as leaders, we are surrounded by dashboards, engagement scores, productivity trackers, business KPIs, time to hire, attrition risk, learning hours, you name it. All the data out there is available all of the time. And in this complex world and reality, we have to move from viewing the organization as a machine that can produce data and numbers and that can be controlled and managed, to viewing it as the social system that it really is. Because people are not cogs in this machinery. They have feelings, dreams, challenges, thoughts. They cannot be controlled because they are not robots. They are complex adaptive systems that work from intrinsic motivation. And that means that we need to stop to see people as resources and view them as the living organisms as they are. And we need to treat them differently for optimal results. And who needs to start this? Well, who are formal influencers in a traditionally managed organization? It's the formal managers. Managers who have been formally appointed with a title and a position. And they have influence. And with influence comes responsibility. And that responsibility means that you need to use data wisely and never at the cost of the human perspective. And yes, data helps us see patterns we couldn't see before. It helps us to ask better questions. It can make hidden dynamics visible. I'm not here to say that data is bad. I use it. I teach it. I rely on it too. But here's the catch. Data gives us signals, but it never gives us the full story. A dashboard won't tell you why a team is disengaged. An algorithm cannot feel psychological safety, and a metric doesn't see a person's potential or their fear. And as leaders, we need to know the numbers, but we also need to know our people and the why behind the numbers. And too often, when pressure increases, we reach for the numbers and we forget about the people behind them. Data is powerful, but it's also very seductive. Once we can measure something, it becomes very tempting to optimize for that measure, to focus all our energy on moving that number at any cost. We have seen this in countless organizations. You can see that the team's productivity drops and leadership doubles down on time tracking, or a department's engagement score fails and managers rush to implement generic initiatives. But these are just reactions to numbers. They are not real needs. So When we let metrics lead without context, we can create this fear-based behavior where people start gaming the system. I'm sure you recognize this. You avoid mistakes. You say what you think leaders want to hear rather than what you really think. And innovation suffers and trust goes down as well. So what we measure shapes how we behave. If we measure only outputs, we may miss well-being, we may miss learning, inclusion, psychological safety, things that matter just as much, if not more, I would say. At Agile People, we believe that data should serve people, not the other way around. Leadership should be human first and data informed second. In my books and in the Agile People movement, we emphasize values like autonomy, safety, collaboration, continuous learning and improvement. And these are not things you can control with numbers, but they can be supported by data if you use them wisely. When used well, data can actually visualize learning journeys and highlight feedback loops and system bottlenecks and support team retrospectives and improve the dialogue between different people. We need to shift the mindset from how do I control people using data to how do I empower people with insights they can act on themselves. And I always say you need to lead like a gardener. And this is really everything you need to know in the gardener metaphor. I'm not going to go into detail into that right now, but think about it. The garden has different plants that all work together to fulfill the purpose, and the gardener needs the competence about different needs that different plants and bushes and trees and vegetables have, to understand how does this particular plant want to be treated. Does it need a lot of sun or water? Does it need some shadow sometimes, etc.? So they have very different needs. So you need to lead like a gardener, and that's all you need to know if you're manager. Care for the people, manage the system. That's all you need to know. Managing the system, we have been talking a little bit about it. It's the structures in the system, processes, systems, etc. They need to support people, not hinder people from performing. And then we have the caring. What does that mean? Care for the people. Well, it means that you should try to treat people the way that they want to be treated, not the way that you want to be treated. That's a lie. You should never treat people like you want to be treated, but like they want to be treated, because everybody is different and everybody has a different motivation profile. I work a lot with the Reese motivation profile because I think it's a really, really good tool. And it makes it possible for everybody in the organization to live their basic needs if the leader is aware of their basic needs. It's very much used, for example, in the Finnish school system and in companies to understand people on a deeper level. Well, we have looked at the risks and the potential. Now, what can you do with this tomorrow? Here are 3 practical principles to take with you from this session. 1, use data as feedback, not judgment. Ask, what are we learning from this metric, not who do we blame? Make people co-owners of the data and share it transparently. Use it in retrospectives. Involve teams in interpreting what it means. And 3rd, ask better questions. Use data to open up dialogue, not shut it down. So instead of why is performance down, try instead what are we not seeing, or where do we need to listen better? These principles are not solving everything, but they shift the dynamic from control to collaboration and from pressure to partnership. And my Achilles heel is psychological safety. We need psychologically safe organization. This is the cycle of psychological danger that I want to remind you about when you're afraid of admitting mistakes. You blame other people, you're also less likely to share different views with each other, and then we can fall victim of the common knowledge effect. Instead, we need the cycle of psychological safety. We are comfortable admitting mistakes, we learn from failure, everyone openly shares, and then we have a much better innovation and decision-making climate as well. So as we come to the end of this session, let's come back to the essence of what this talk is really about. Leadership that sees the whole picture. Yes, we need data. It gives us clarity, structure, and patterns. But if we lead by numbers alone, we risk creating organizations that are technically efficient, but emotionally empty. Real leadership happens when we connect the head and the heart, when we use insight, not to control, but to understand, when we trust people, not just the process. So here's my invitation to you. What is one thing you can do tomorrow to lead more with both data and humanity, with head and heart? Maybe it's asking a better question. Maybe it's sharing the numbers in a new way. Or maybe it's simply pausing and listening. If you haven't come across it already, the Agile People Manifesto summarizes what we value at Agile People. And this is my gift to you to read and reflect on. You find it on agilepeoplemanifesto.org. So let's not just collect data, let's enable people instead. And let's not just optimize metrics, let's humanize leadership. So thank you for listening, and I wish you a perfect, wonderful conference ahead now. Thank you.